Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in and checking out the video. So this video is going to be talking about the fight between Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier. Now, this matchup is highly anticipated between two bitter rivals. These two guys, you've seen them argue in interviews, you've seen them get into a brawl when they both were facing off with each other, so there's some general animosity between these guys, and this is a big fight for the UFC. In my opinion, some of the cards have not been as good as they used to be in previous years, but this fight is a type of fight that really puts the UFC back in the mainstream and really gets a lot of fans who might watch only one or two UFC events a year. This is the type of fight that they would watch and be very excited about. Now, let me first get into some of the fighters that I'm going to be talking about here. Let me first speak about Jon Jones. So you have Jon Jones, an incredible champion. He's defeated such fighters as Chael Sonnen, Lyoto Machida. He's defeated Rashad Evans. He's defeated Alexander Gustafsson. And he showed a tremendous amount of heart in that fight, might I add. Now, Jon Jones just is really a freak of nature. He's got the huge reach. He's a very tall fighter. He's got a wrestling background. And he's the type of guy that, in my opinion, he could go down as one of the best to ever do it in the sport of MMA. He's extremely composed. He uses a variety of different strikes, and in his last fight against Glover Teixeira, he just looked incredible. He was mimicking some old-school throwback boxing fighters throughout that fight. He just looked like, legitimately, he was in a sparring match. It was crazy. And he really impressed me in that fight because he was in some of Glover Teixeira's dangerous areas, where you would figure that Teixeira had the advantages in the fight, but Jon Jones really took it to him and completely outclassed Glover Teixeira, who was a good fighter. Now, let's talk about Daniel Cormier. Now, this position for Daniel Cormier is not new to him. If I bring you guys back to the Strikeforce days, Daniel Cormier, at one point of his career, nobody really had heard of him, and there was a Strikeforce Heavyweight Grand Prix tournament. Now, in this tournament, you had names such as Fedor Emelianenko, Alistair Overeem, Brett Rogers, just to name a few. So there's quite a few big names. Sergei Kharitonov was another guy. And nobody really had heard of him. What happened in that tournament is Daniel Cormier shocked the world. He was the underdog leading into the tournament, and he defeated Antonio Silva, and he won the Strikeforce Grand Prix with impressive performances. And that's the type of thing that about Daniel Cormier that people don't understand. I don't think a lot of MMA fans know too much about Daniel Cormier, but this guy's a tremendous fighter. He's been destroying heavyweights. He's defeated Frank Mir. He's defeated Roy Nelson. He's defeated Josh Barnett, where he's picking him up and slamming him. And Josh Barnett is no joke in the grappling department. Also dominated Antonio Silva, who is a large man. So Daniel Cormier, when I look at him as a fighter, he's a guy I've always said will give Jon Jones problems. Olympic background in wrestling, outstanding wrestler. He's got great power and great strength. Good striking as well. He has some power. Cormier is a guy who also is pretty good on the ground, especially on the top game. From what I've seen in his previous fights, he's had some pretty good cardio as well. How that will go over at 205 is interesting to see because in 205 he's really just been destroying his opponents. And I want to see what happens when Cormier is pushed in a 5-round fight. Now, when I talk about this fight, what do both fighters need to do to win this matchup? First of all, for Jon Jones, he's got to use a variety of his strikes, use those knees, kicks, and elbows. He's got to keep Daniel Cormier on the outside. Also, I like to see him just be unpredictable throughout the fight and keep his patience and be very composed like he always is, as usual. Now, when we're talking about Daniel Cormier, he needs to get inside throughout the fight. For this fight, I'm going to look at the first 2 rounds of this fight and really think to myself, is this going to work out for Daniel Cormier? I think those first 2 rounds are really going to show us how this fight is going to go. Is Cormier going to be able to get inside? Is he going to be predictable in getting inside, or is he going to have different nuances to his game? Also, can Cormier take Jon Jones down? That's going to be the big question. I believe that Daniel Cormier will take Jon Jones down. Jon Jones is actually a pretty good wrestler, but Cormier just is an outstanding wrestler, and Jon Jones has never faced a fighter with Daniel Cormier's wrestling ability, also Daniel Cormier's strength. So that's one thing that you really got to watch when you're looking at this fight. My prediction for this matchup, I'm going to pick Daniel Cormier to win a unanimous decision over Jon Jones. Very tough fight to pick. I would favor Jon Jones in this matchup, but something in me believes that Daniel Cormier will be able to get inside and will be able to take down Jon Jones. He's been defeating guys who are heavyweights and who are massive men. So that's one of the big things coming in about Daniel Cormier. I think he's highly underrated. This guy is a truly talented fighter. But Jon Jones is a phenom. I mean, it can really go either way. I think the first 2 rounds are going to be very telling in this fight. But I got Daniel Cormier pulling an upset and winning this fight. I'd previously picked, up until this point, Jon Jones to win. I wanted to see Daniel Cormier against another top 205-pounder, which he really hasn't faced so far. I wanted to see him in with even a guy like Glover Teixeira, Alexander Gustafsson, or Anthony Johnson, and see what his experience level was like against a tough challenger, maybe if the fight had to go the distance type of thing. So this is going to be an interesting fight, guys. Overall, great fight. You do not want to miss this. Give me your take on the fight, guys. Who you guys have winning this matchup, and what are some advantages you see for both fighters? So thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks.